I stood in the Sterling Hotel's grand ballroom, adjusting the cuff of my rented tux as guests drifted in like swans, all pearls, silk, and names that lived in newspapers. The room glittered with crystal chandeliers and champagne, the kind of place you feel like an intruder if you don't speak in legacy or investments. But I wasn't an intruder. I was Vanessa's husband. At least, I thought I was. We'd been married 9 years. I was the steady one, not glamorous, not pedigreed, but reliable. I owned a modest contracting business. I fixed things. I provided. I thought that was enough. The plan was simple: help coordinate the Morrison family gala. Then finally, be seen as more than the blue-collar plus one. I'd spent months organizing logistics, negotiating with vendors, even repainting parts of the ballroom myself when their usual crew bailed. Eleanor, Vanessa's mother, called it pitching in. I called it trying. Then the music dipped. Eleanor approached me, all smiles and diamonds, holding something in her manicured fingers. "Mason, darling," she said with sugary venom, "let's make sure the guests know who to thank for all the hard work." She pressed a white tag onto my chest. "Housekeeper." The letters were bold, black, all caps, like a joke shouted in ink. I froze. I actually thought it was a mistake. A prop, a prank, maybe. I looked at Vanessa, my wife, the woman I met at a community art fair, who said she loved how grounded I was. She saw the badge and burst out laughing. Not a chuckle, a loud, performative laugh that drew the attention of everyone around us. "You understand, don't you?" she said, still laughing. "Food's for family, Mason." I didn't move. My heartbeat slowed. I looked toward the family table. My nameplate was gone. The seat where I was supposed to be, empty. Then filled by her cousin Spencer, a guy who once told me construction workers were just sweaty background noise. Something snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, like a seam giving way under years of tension. I reached up, removed the name badge. Then I took off my wedding ring. I didn't say a word. I didn't throw a glass or cause a scene. I just walked out, past the champagne towers, past the hollow greetings, past Vanessa's frozen expression as I left her laughing in front of 370 people who now knew exactly where I stood in their story. That night, I slept in my work van. And for the first time in years, I felt awake. Vanessa and I met at a community mural project downtown. I was installing scaffolding. She was sketching a hawk in charcoal on a brick wall. She called it blue-collar poetry when I told her I laid flooring for a living. She kissed me under that half-finished hawk a week later and said I made her feel grounded. Back then, she'd sneak out of her family's country club dinners just to eat tacos in my truck. We'd talk about building something real. She said money was a cage she was born into, and I believed her. But over time, the cage became her throne. It started with small things. Her father, Robert, refused to shake my hand during our engagement party, said it was calloused. Eleanor gave me a book called Etiquette for Commerce at Christmas with a wink. "Jokes," they said. "Harmless jokes." Then came the seating arrangements. Family photos without me. Dinners where I was asked to grab something from the couch right before dessert. Vanessa always smiled, deflected, redirected. "They're just stuck in their ways," she said. "Don't give them power." I didn't, at first. But then she started changing, too. She stopped asking about my work, began laughing at jokes that mocked people like me. When her brother got into trouble with the SEC, I offered to help him hide assets legally, sell off, transfer through business. She said, "You wouldn't understand." I did. I just didn't have the pedigree. I suggested counseling. She said we weren't broken, just growing apart. I booked a weekend trip to the mountains. She canceled for a wine tasting tour with her college friends. I made a list of things I missed. Her laughter, her curiosity, her belief in us. She made a list of luxury resorts for her mother's birthday. She said we'd always be a team. But when her family sneered, she stood on their side of the court, smiling. 3 months before the gala, Eleanor asked if I'd help coordinate the Morrison Foundation's charity ball. "You're so organized," she said. "Vanessa always says you're handy." I should have heard the patronizing tone, but I wanted in. I wanted to belong. I poured myself into the planning. I met deadlines, fixed vendor errors, even replaced faulty uplighting in the ballroom myself. I told myself this was the moment. The redemption arc. Vanessa didn't say thank you, but she didn't stop me either. And that felt like support. Now I know better. Silence can be complicity. And complicity wears red lipstick and diamond earrings and watches you from across the ballroom as her mother pins a humiliation to your chest. After I left that night, she didn't call. Not that night. Not the next. The woman who once danced barefoot in the rain with me didn't even text to ask if I made it home safe. I stared at our house from my van the next morning, knowing it wasn't mine. Not really. Every photo was hers. Every painting. Every piece of furniture from her family's design consultant. Even the damn dog was chosen because golden doodles look cleaner. I entered quietly. Didn't wake her. Just packed a small duffel bag. Laptop. Work boots. That hawk sketch she gave me years ago. The only thing in that house that still felt like her. Like us. Then I sat at the kitchen table and opened a blank spreadsheet. Exit plan. Mason. And I typed. Not out of anger. Not revenge. Out of survival. The divorce was clean. Uncontested. Vanessa signed without a word in the lawyer's office. Her diamond ring still on. Her expression unreadable. The same lips that once kissed sawdust off my shoulder now moved only to say, "This is sad, Mason, but maybe it's for the best." I didn't disagree. I moved into a modest condo across town. Concrete floors, simple furniture, sunlight that didn't need to filter through layers of pretense. My name was finally on the lease, not just the mail. I rebuilt quietly. My business grew. Word spread that I wasn't just good with my hands. I ran things right. I hired more crews, offered benefits, set up contracts with a few local architecture firms. My hands were still calloused, but now they signed paychecks. I didn't post about the divorce. I didn't shame Vanessa. I didn't need to, but they did. 3 months later, my phone buzzed with a message from an old client. "Mason, are you okay? Just saw what Vanessa's family said online. Should I be worried?" Worried. I opened the link. A carefully curated post from Robert Morrison himself. It read, "We're saddened by recent events. Our daughter Vanessa is recovering from a difficult split. We trusted Mason. Welcome him into our lives. Perhaps too generously. Sometimes people misuse kindness. We won't speak ill of him. We just wish he'd handled things differently." Beneath it, Eleanor had posted a photo of the charity gala, me in the background, lifting a tray. The caption read, "Some people confuse opportunity with status. Know the difference." The implication was clear. I wasn't just a man who left his wife. I was a social climber, a fraud, a gold digger who got what he could and bailed. And for a while, I said nothing. I thought silence was noble. Until another client canceled a renovation job citing reputation concerns. That's when I wrote my post. No drama, no rage, just the truth. My name is Mason Hale. I was married to Vanessa Morrison for 9 years. I helped plan the gala in that photo. I wasn't staff. I was family. Or I thought I was. The badge said housekeeper. My wife laughed. There was no seat for me at the table. I walked away because I realized I was no longer seen as a husband. Just background noise. I don't regret leaving. I regret waiting so long too. It took 3 minutes to post. It took 2 hours to go viral. By morning, I had messages from people across the country, contractors, servers, spouses, even strangers who'd sat quietly at family tables that made them feel like imposters. The Morrison family didn't respond. Not publicly. A year later, I ran into Vanessa at a grocery store near my new job site. She stood by the produce. "No makeup. Cart half full. Mason," she said. A pause. "Do you ever think about us?" I looked at her, really looked. Sometimes, I said, but not like you think. I don't think about what I lost. I think about what I learned. She blinked, like maybe she expected anger or longing, but I had nothing left to prove. I paid for my groceries, walked out into the sunlight, and this time, nobody handed me a role to play.